Just a quick disclaimer. The audio for this video was not the best. That's on my end. I apologize for that. We did not have our mic set up correctly, but it will be fixed next episode. So hopefully you guys can still find something to enjoy about this video. Keep hanging with us. Welcome to another edition of the Tuf Podcast. This is episode 22. I'm here with my boys,
Ray.
And Carlos.
Yeah, we all here today, man, vibing out. Got another special one for y'all today. So keep tuning in, keep commenting, subscribing, and sharing with your people. So for the first topic today, we want to touch on how do you guys realize that something is your calling? Like the dream job that you want to do, how do you know that that's your calling?
Honestly, you gotta do what makes you happy. I mean, it's really that simple to me. But I don't know. It's hard, but I know for me, what I found, I just looked at what I always liked throughout my whole life, and I went with that. You also gotta listen to God. If you do believe in God, take that as a route, use Him, and He will show you anything that you do.
I agree with him. I feel like if it's something, if it's your calling, you just can't avoid it. I feel like it's just something that just keeps sticking with you and keeps knocking. It's like you dream about it, you think about it. I mean, you think of the outcomes. I mean, if it's something that you can't get out your head, it's almost like it was meant to be. So that's just how I view it.
I never experienced my dream job yet, so I could go off with it. I think it's like it don't feel like working. You know what I mean? Like this right here, this don't feel like I'm working. It's actually fun to me. I enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're going to school for like cars, so like, how did you feel like that was your calling to an extent?
Oh, then like that, like y'all said,
yeah.
Like since I was a little kid, always wanted to do something called. I mean, yeah.
Two stories with me. I don't know, like God works in mysterious ways. Everything happens for a reason. You know, at any point given time, you just got to be ready for when that door opens. So like Ray said, just be thoughtful, be prayerful, because God always has a plan. First story is college, right? So I was choosing between Ohio State, OU, Kent State. Each of them had a little bit of what I wanted. My order at the time was Ohio State, Kent State, and Ohio in that order. Wasn't really into partying like that, so Ohio was eliminated. Kent State, I mean, Nick Saban coached there. People don't really know that, but he did. They've got solid football every now and then, so I wanted to get a hands-on in their sports management program. It was between that and obviously Ohio State. Ohio State was number one, definitely, not only because of our football itself, but just because of the resources, the connections. But again, it took me a while to solidify Ohio State as my number one. And my brother just walked up to me and he was like, dude, I mean, you've been a Buckeye since day one. What is there even to think about? Like, you know where your heart is, you know where your heart resides. So, and it was from that moment on, I just clicked accept, on the admission. So sometimes you just need just that little bit of a reminder, like, don't be thinking too much. You've got somebody right there in your corner, just trust it and go with it. The second one, basically, George Floyd. I can't say this enough, man. We're going through this trial right now. Very emotional trial. I saw that and I said, it's a damn shame that we have to go through this again. We continue to, but in my lifetime, I just can't do nothing, right? So I felt like that was my calling to try to help out the Black community in any way that I could. Raising money for obviously a good cause to give back, just to give our people a voice. I don't know. It's just so unfortunate that had to be the calling. I was just so fed up. I was like, you kidding me? Like, you've actually got people trying to justify murder that everybody saw on live TV. So those are the two stories. But like you guys all said, you know, just be thoughtful, prayerful about it. You may not know it's your calling, but you never know if you don't take that risk either. So, you know, I'm not saying going with a blind slate, but at least, you know, if you got a plan and, you know, if you feel like you should take it, then go for it.
And to bounce back to you in reverse, so I'm sure growing up we all had different types of dreams. Like maybe you wanted to achieve something, or like later on down the road we was kind of like, maybe that's not cut out for me. How did you realize that that wasn't it for you, and how did you reroute it and bounce back? I don't know if you had a moment like that, Ricardo.
Yeah, that was more classwork than anything. I was always raised to, you know, do the best that you can be, whatever it may be, even if it's something hard, right? That way, if you get over it, it'll be that much more rewarding. But I don't know if it's just our generation. We just give up so much easier than the previous generations. So if this goes to work too, right? Like if you're working in something dysfunctional, you're just like, I'm out, right? If something hard is in school, you're just like, I'm out. Like I don't want to face that challenge. It may have been my calling to do that at the time, but I may have backed away from it. I was like, this isn't it for me. I don't feel it. You know, I don't feel like I can stay here long term. So a lot of it was school and work for me in that.
So like to bounce back off you, when you said like true calling, I feel like it could take it could be a roadblock. Say like, you know, I like cars. I love this on cars. Say that's not even my true calling. Say accounting might be my true calling. So like this could be roadblocks, and you said something about overthinking. Yeah, that's true. I overthink about so much. And really, you don't really got to overthink stuff. It's just right there for you.
Yeah, I feel both you guys on that, because it comes to a point where it's like growing up, I may have wanted to be a vet or something, and growing up, I'm like, man, I kind of don't want to put animals down and stuff like that. Like it's just, there's some stuff that you just know it's like in your heart. The calling, what I want to do now, like I think about it so much. Like one of my sole purposes for even being in school is for this reason. Whenever I feel like doing a homework assignment, I really look back on, I want to take care of my family, and I want to help the Black community. I can't do that if I stop, because what type of example would I be doing that? So that's one. If you can use what you want to do as a motivation for life, I feel like that's a key thing. And then sometimes there's stuff that you may want to do, but at the end of the day, you got to do something for yourself, but what can you do to help others? People are going to remember you for what you did for others, not what you did for yourself. So I feel like that's just the biggest thing, man, just the impact you can make. And even if you want to do something, you got to put your selfish ways behind and do what's best for you, but also for everybody else.
Just to kind of go off of what they were saying, and I didn't say this before, but I do also think that God has two purposes for you. Kind of like what Colin was saying, you have a purpose of what you're supposed to do in this life, what you're supposed to do for others. So that's food for thought. And I also think that you can't stop God's plan. No matter what you do, no matter how stubborn you are, what He wants you to do in this life is going to keep coming back to you. Like He said, when you were younger, dreams, stuff like that, it's going to keep coming back to you, no matter what route you take. So there's that.
Yeah, Ricardo touched on it earlier, man. The George Floyd case. I don't want to get everybody's thoughts on that, man. I know it's kind of a little rough for a lot of people. I mean, some people don't care, but I mean, for us, what we're trying to do, and us being Black men in this world, and people that care about us, and we care about Black people, it's kind of hard to sit and watch people try and justify a murder, no matter what. So, ready to kick off with that?
George Floyd is very unfortunate what happened to him, and I think a lot of people try to find excuses for what happened to him. You gotta just put yourself in his shoes. Like, if that's the way you died, do you want someone to just walk away free from that? Like he died just living a regular life. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't perfect, but that's no reason to die the way he did. And let's just be honest, it's plain as day. But because of his skin color, it's not right anymore. Only thing that we can do as a Black community is to continue to stand up for what's right, continue to help our voices be heard.
I agree. I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me is how a man was murdered that didn't really necessarily do anything. They say first he was using a counterfeit $20 bill, which from what I know, they still haven't even found that to be 100% true yet. And second off, the main excuse they're trying to use now is that he was on drugs. Drugs or not, a man does not deserve to be held down in a knee on his neck for 9 minutes. Does anybody know the exact time? 9 minutes and whatever. I mean, hell, 30 seconds to have a knee on your neck is.
Oh, Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Oh, what, 936?
Yeah, it's some.
Was it 936?
Well, we'll put it in there. We'll correct it. But nonetheless, I mean, regardless, let's say he was on drugs. I mean, so what? That doesn't give you the right to take anybody's life. That doesn't mean you're better than him. So the fact that, and I know the attorney of the officer has to do his job or whatever, but the fact that he can even sit in court and try and justify that's wicked. I mean, no matter how you want to look at it, I mean, no matter you're getting paid or what, that is still wicked at the end of the day. So I mean, you know, it is what it is. We just tired of it. I mean, we can sit here and say it all day, but I mean, change will come sooner or later. So,
Did you see the attorney was talking to one of the guy that was still in the video? They basically trying to say that he was choking him and he wouldn't let go because the crowd behind him was being rowdy. That's no reason to kill someone.
yeah, I mean,
There's no excuse for what he did. The officer deserves time.
yeah, he absolutely deserves time. So,
From my
So, speaking of the officer, I think that's his ass. I think he's gonna get locked up because it's worldwide. Everybody's seen it.
they can't let this one go.
Yeah, there will be chaos if they let him.
Hey, let me go forward.
Yeah, I mean,
we seen the white folks did some unbelievable shit. So, but yeah, he gotta go. And I'm scared for what's gonna happen if he do be free.
if he gets set free.
Yeah.
So just so going off, I'm gonna say a couple things here and there. In my opinion, he'll get second degree. I believe he won't get third because third is basically accidental. That's too low of a punishment. I believe first degree. I mean, he's a cop. You know, he's gonna claim he was just doing his job. He's not gonna get first degree. So my guess is that all this is gonna be for second degree. I don't know if he'll get life. This is our justice system we're talking about here. But the thing is that one thing that he did mention was, the drugs, but the concept of resisting arrest that they always use against black men, and it's I don't think they understand the fear that they put in us, that stimuli response to say my life is on the line, even if it's something as petty as a tail light or a ticket. I don't think they understand that we don't view them as our protector, as our heroes, right? So when we celebrate police officers, we celebrate the ones that are doing their jobs, but we're tired of people not understanding that there are those that abuse their power, whether it's just because of prejudice, racism, discrimination, bigotry, all that. I just couldn't imagine going home to your wife and kids knowing that you murdered somebody and you've got kids right next to you. How could you look at your kids and set an example for them? I'm just setting an example. Like, what if the officer had, like people, like I said, like he has a family. Everyone's got families.
Yeah, everybody.
And hell, think about the people that had to sit there and watch that.
I just think that we're always looking for an excuse to kill somebody, and sometimes all it takes is your skin color. Sometimes all it takes is a little flinch. Sometimes all it takes is a response like, "Hey," so, it's just very frustrating because the whole 9 lives concept doesn't really reside with us. So I just feel like that the way that our justice system works, killing should probably be a last resort. I tell my family all the time. I went to a Catholic school. We used to debate the death penalty all the time. I'm like, guys, there are some crazy mofos out there that will do some extreme.
Fucking golden.
And I like, I remember sending this thing to Kyler, man. This guy murdered, I swear it was like 80 something. And I mean, just a terrorist that bombed hundreds of people. I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? He made his choice to pretty much die. You know what I mean? But if it's something way less than that, I just feel like
You don't deserve to die.
you just don't deserve to die. You know what I mean? So I just feel like we're putting it a lot in the police officer hands to play judge, jury, and executioner, and it's just like, I just didn't think that's what you were paid to do. By us, by the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I just,
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm
and I tell Kyle all the time, we just have different opinions. What I'm saying is not necessarily like, oh, they should be trained. I mean, you can't really train someone to be unracist. I'm not saying all cops are racist, but I'm saying that it's not just the training, it's the consequences. Like, we got to start hammering them on what they're allowed to use, you know what I mean? What they can and can't do in certain situations. I just feel like we're not tough on them, you know? So, you know, it's getting to the point where we've got abolitionists that just don't even want police officers in here. So it's just a sad situation on the way now.
Yeah. And to go back to your thing of the death penalty, like, because jail was originally first to be for rehabilitation. Like,
come out.
you're supposed to come out and be a better person. But to your extent, like, it's a thin line because, you know, somebody kills somebody. If it's your family member, you want him to get the chair sometimes. But then you can look on the outside like, man, maybe he deserves a second chance, you know, to kind of right his wrongs. But hell, if it's somebody that touched 20 kids and you want him to get in the chair, like, that's sick. So it's a thin line. I mean, it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
So. And to touch back on when you said, like, cases in the past, I don't know how Zimmerman got off the Trayvon Martin case.
You know what he's doing? He is still on Trayvon's parents. I think he just had a birthday a couple of weeks ago. So happy birthday, Trayvon. The thing is that he keeps on trying to sue his parents. You can look at it.
For what?
Just the previous stuff they had in the cases and all that. You know what I mean? He's still trying to sue them all to this day because his logic is this. I'll say this with a straight face. He feels as though he can't live a normal life.
Yeah, you can.
Because of everything that's going on in the past and the cases, and he's blaming their parents.
How old was he when
I say this with a straight face.
Was he alright?
He was
Or was he a teenager?
He was like 16 or 14.
I'm like,
something.
you're lucky.
What year was that? Like 2014?
Yeah. I'm like, you're lucky even on the streets. Then he went and got to purchase this, the justice system for you. He was able to go purchase another semi-automatic, taking pictures with a bunch of people. And I'm just like,
and they look at him as heroes. I mean,
I look at it as the man tried him, got his ass whooped, and he pulled the gun because he was a coward. Talking about he looks suspicious. What?
All because he was black.
and he had a hoodie with some skills.
Not even.
But I mean, think about how many. I mean, if you ever grew up in an environment, think of how many black boys go to the corner store. That's a staple, and they come home just because you had on a hoodie and some Skittles. Like that's great. It's a strange. Yeah, right. It's strange times. I mean,
And then he took pictures of himself because he got his ass whooped in defense. So that helped him get out. It's like, if you don't think that's coordinated in any way, shape, or form. Like, he knew exactly, like, oh, he's dead, gotta have the evidence. Boom. Like, it's just like, oh my goodness, that's a human life.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we'll go back this way. So what do you guys think one issue is the barrier with race relations and problems? What do you think one of the issues is? It's a lot.
I think people need to stop. And this is hard to say, but because black people and white people, we all have differences in cultures, the way we live. But you're not better than the person next to you just because your skin color is a different color. Like, that's just all it is. And, like, and I'm not to come at white people, but y'all the main case in this. And y'all do this to every race. Y'all not better than the next person. Like, it's a new era. It's hard to say this positive. And it's for real. It's hard to not feel hate for white people to continue to see your people get dead the way that they do. Like, not even just killing y'all for years have oppressed people of color, from the darkest skin tone in the world to light skin, just because y'all think you're better. It's gotta end, man. Y'all are not better than somebody because you're white. You're not. What's your question?
I was just saying one reason you think that can fix race relations is one of the barriers. I think one of the key things is I hate to point it out this way, but I feel like white people look at things from like such a broad standpoint. So one argument I hear all the time is, like, well, black on black crime or this, that, and the third. But it's like, well, when you put a whole bunch of people in one area who don't have any money, and you took all the resources out, and I'm not going to be one of those people and sit here and blame it on, that, like, you guys in general. But it's like, we can't, like, ignore the obvious. Like, y'all took every resource out. Y'all didn't give us a fair hand. And that's on us, too, because, shit, we got to start our own stuff. But it's like, y'all do that, and y'all don't give us fair opportunities. Every time we try and do something, y'all jump over it. Y'all stop us, whether it's a job promotion or whatever it may be. And then you strip the men away from the home for something as little as a little bit of weed. And then the kids grow up with no father. And then they don't have nothing. So what the hell you supposed to do? Sit there and starve to death? That just turns you on to that. And like I said, I'm not going to fully blame it on y'all because we got to do things better ourselves. But it's just, y'all look at things in such a broad scope. You need to break it down and see why this is happening. I'm sure a young man who goes out and is killing and robbing people isn't just doing it just because. Like, yeah, that's just, you got to look through it through a lens. And I understand it's hard to relate because you got to be in a certain person's shoes, and y'all, it's hard to understand because we don't understand y'all as well from time to time. So it's just, but you have to sit down and talk about it. I just think y'all jump so quick to conclusions and don't look at the whole picture. I just look at the broader aspect of it. So,
off what Ray said, it's like shit, I'm trying to think. It's just so much. I feel like they can, if they like understand that they got it easier than other race, if that makes sense. Probably if they like use their privilege to help blacks and Asians and Latinas and all that, and like there's some good white people, of course. But there's more.
We're not saying, yeah.
Like the bad one shows out more than the good one. It intoxicates.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying because they oftentimes go, well, look at me, I made an opportunity, or I can. But it's like
the American.
Yeah, but it's like, dude, like even different, like it's not an equal playing field. No matter how much you want to say, well, I grew up in a trailer park, and now look at me, I own a bit. But it's not. It's different. As much as you want to say that, it is what it is. So,
I just watched a video on it was last Friday, and it was on race, and you can go to, I believe it was Harvard's website. They have a race test. You can see which race that you favor more. So after I took mine, it said I obviously favor black people, right? And that's common because I'm used to black people more than I am white people, right? The problem, that's not the issue. The issue is the implicit bias and the stereotypes and the narratives that you get, whether it's from your parents, whether it's from your grandparents, whether it's from your coach, your friends, the TV. When you inherit that and you go along with it, I mean, who knows? She used an example that sometimes we don't even know that we're like that. So she was driving one time with a woman or whatever. You know what I mean? And her very first instinct was, I very hope she can drive, because the stereotype is women can't drive. Does she know the person? No. Would she ever say that about a man driving her? No. Even though men, I'm pretty sure, are more likely to get into accidents than women, right? So the point that I'm mentioning is that whatever propelled her to say that, she caught herself, right? So we have to catch ourselves immediately. And then from there, we have to say, all right, I have to surround myself with education, history, you know what I mean? And she was just straight up. She was doing a TED Talk, and she flashed all these black men on the screen. Because she was like, white people, I want you to see these successful black men. Just keep looking at them. Just keep looking at them. Just keep looking. You know, we need to start actually looking minorities in the face, having interactions, conversation. You know, to see the actual goodness in people. You know, we can go on the news and look at people's, you know, people's photos and people's stories and bios. But I really do think that implicit bias, that prejudice, that stereotype, that immediately has to be fixed. So Kyler is obviously focusing on the community, right? And that's just outstanding, right? I feel like people themselves, as individuals, have to realize their thought process when it comes to black people, when it comes to people of color, right? And they have to automatically check themselves, right? Like I said, people sometimes they do not know. I'll give you one example. This is about Hispanics, right? And this is when Donald Trump was saying that, you know, Mexicans are stealing our jobs, they're rapists, and some girl on The View or whatever, she was like, "Who do you think scrubs your toilet, Donald Trump?" And what her point was that a lot of minorities end up doing the work that a lot of privileged people don't want to do. But in her delivery, it made it seem like the stereotype is those are what they always do, right? So it naturally happens, right? You're trying to do the right thing, you really, really are. But intent can only get you so far, right? The more we interact, the more we educate ourselves, right, the better off we'll be. So that's all I gotta say. Look, it's on Harvard. It's a race test. You know what I'm saying? So I'm pretty sure it was Harvard. So if you guys want to do that, go online. It'll only take you about, I would say, 5 minutes. So.
Yeah, you know how I do blame for all this stuff? All white folks back in the day.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what it's stemming from. Yeah, I mean, and where I live on the north side, like in the Brickdown area, so it's a little rough. And I grew up there my whole life. As much as a bad light and shine in that area, the kids there are really smart. They just don't know where to put it. So that's just one of the challenges I think people don't understand. It's like they're so damn intelligent and like they find out how to do something. Like if they had somebody to show them the right way and take that energy of killing somebody or whatever the case may be, if they put that into a craft, no telling the sky would be is the limit. It's as simple as that. There's just not enough mentors. I mean, that's what it is. And as you touched on earlier, I mean, and I hate to stereotype too that like black fathers aren't around. I mean, there's a lot of cases of it. I mean, but when there's not a man in the household, it's hard. I mean, it's hard for a mother to raise kids on her own and do that instant. It's very tough. So I mean, you just gotta look at everything as the whole scope. You can't just look at it so broadly. So, is it still recording? You still recording? Okay, good.
Something I was going to say, and kind of going off of what Carter said, but those stereotypes and the way that people view somebody, it's even racism. It's years and layers, hundreds of years. That it's been building up for a while, so it's not going to go away overnight. But we can take the steps to taking all that away from people, man. It's just people got to change their mindset, like what Carter said, man. Look at a successful black person, man. Look at a successful Mexican person. Look at a successful this person, that person. You can't let stereotypes move. You gotta have everyone's an open book, man. You know what I'm what I'm saying? You gotta be able, there is definitely bad people in this
Yeah.
world, though. You know what I'm saying? But
Black people from everywhere. I mean, that's,
everybody ain't bad. But,
I think it's just a lot of misunderstanding, not enough communication. And I don't think people care enough. I feel like if people wake up and they're taken care of and their families, and that is what it is. But so, you know.
Shake it off. Think he was beat to death the other day.